Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're really getting into something fundamental, security governance principles.
Yeah, absolutely.
Our source material for this is Episode 4, Topic 1.3 from the not very boring CISSP course.
Good stuff.
And our mission really is to boil down what security governance is all about, make it clear, make it relevant for everyone listening.
Exactly. And look, security governance, it can sound a bit dry, maybe,
A little bit, yeah.
but honestly, it's the bedrock. It's the absolute foundation for any security program that's actually, going to work.
Right.
So we're aiming to kind of cut through the jargon, get to what's truly important without drowning in acronyms. It's about the core logic.
Okay, so let's start there. Why does this governance piece matter so much? The course material calls it foundational, right? It's tempting to jump straight to the tech, the cool tool.
Yeah, the shiny objects.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So why start with governance? It feels a bit like, I don't know, learning music theory before touching a guitar.
That's actually a great analogy. Think of it like an orchestra. You can have amazing musicians, truly talented, but if they're all playing different songs or, not following the conductor,
Chaos.
total chaos. Security governance is the musical score, it's the conductor. It ensures all those brilliant security tools and talented people are actually working together, playing the tune set by the business objectives.
Ah, okay.
Without it, your fancy tools might be protecting the wrong things, or you waste resources, and you're just less secure overall.
And this isn't just for the security folks, is it? The material really hits on this organizational alignment point.
Crucial. Absolutely crucial.
It's not just the security department's job. What happens when, organizations don't get this alignment right? What are the sort of real-world consequences?
Oh, you see it all the time.
Yeah.
When security is stuck in its own silo, completely disconnected from what the business is trying to achieve, well, security just gets seen as the department of no.
Blockers.
Exactly. They're
Yeah.
perceived as slowing things down, preventing innovation. And that leads to, well, friction, for one.
Yeah.
But also, security initiatives that are actually vital for the business don't get funded. And the security measures you do have might not protect what the business really values most. So good governance, it flips that script. Security becomes a strategic partner and enabler, helping the business succeed safely. That's a huge shift.
Okay, makes sense. So we get why it's important. Now, what about the how, or maybe the what? The course mentions these tools, these blueprints, security control frameworks.
Right.
ISO 27301, NIST, COBIT, PCI DSS, FedRAMP. It's like alphabet soup sometimes. What are these actually for?
Okay, yeah. Let's unpack that soup. Think of them as different sets of blueprints or maybe recipes for building a solid security foundation.
Okay.
So ISO 27301, that's a really broad, comprehensive international standard, covers managing information security across the whole organization, very widely recognized.
Global standard, basically.
Pretty much. Then you've got NIST frameworks, like the cybersecurity framework. Big in the U.S., especially government and critical infrastructure. Very focused on risk management, identifying, protecting, detecting, that whole life cycle.
Risk-focused. Got it.
Then COBIT. That one's more about the governance of IT itself, making sure IT strategy actually supports the overall business goals.
Aligning IT and business.
Exactly. And PCI DSS, that's super specific. If you handle credit card data, you don't have a choice. It's a mandatory set of security rules.
Non-negotiable for payments?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And FedRAMP, that's for cloud services selling to the U.S. federal government. It's all about ensuring their cloud security is up to snuff.
So it's definitely not about just memorizing the names then.
Oh, not at all. That's
Yeah.
useless. The real skill, and what the course emphasizes, is understanding the purpose of each one. When would you reach for ISO versus NIST? When is PCI DSS the only thing that matters? It's about applying the right tool for the job.
Right, the application.
Knowing how and when is key. If you want that holistic global approach, maybe ISO, US-focused, risk-heavy, probably NIST. It depends on the context.
Okay, so we have these frameworks, these potential roadmaps. How do we actually, translate these high-level ideas into what happens day to day? The material mentions security assessments. Is that the bridge?
That is exactly the bridge.
Yeah.
Security assessments are where the rubber meets the road.
Okay.
You take the principles from your chosen framework, your governance structure, and you check. How are our actual controls doing? Are they meeting the standard?
So like an audit?
Sort of, but it's broader. The course really stresses linking these assessments back to the business objectives. It's not just a technical checklist. Are we protecting what actually matters to the business?
The business link again?
Always. And often you'll have governance committees, maybe folks from IT, legal, business units, HR providing oversight. They make sure the assessments are done right and, crucially, that the findings lead to action.
So things actually get fixed.
Hopefully. And you can't forget the way the organization already works, its existing processes, how decisions get made. That heavily influences how you implement governance, too. You have to work within that structure.
That makes a lot of sense. Security isn't operating in a vacuum.
Never.
And the material brings this up, too, how governance fits into the wider org structure. It mentions things like acquisitions or divestitures. How does governance help during big changes like that?
Oh, that's a classic scenario. Imagine your company buys another one.
Right.
Suddenly you've got two potentially very different security setups, different tools, different policies, maybe different frameworks or levels of maturity.
Potential mess.
Could be. So the course points out you need to understand these organizational processes. Your governance framework and your committees become critical. They need to assess the acquired company's security posture against your standards.
Find the gaps.
Exactly. Identify the risks. Figure out how to integrate them. Do they need to adopt your framework? Do you adjust yours? The governance structure provides the mechanism to make those really important decisions during that kind of change.
Now, the source flags something important, a common confusion point. It's not just about defining terms, is it?
No, definitely not.
It's about using this knowledge practically.
100%.
Huh.
The CISSP exam, sure. But more importantly, real-world security work, it's not a vocabulary test.
Right.
It's about applying these principles. Can you take a scenario like that acquisition we just discussed and figure out how to use, say, NIST or your governance committee structure to assess the risk and plan the integration? That's the skill, not just reciting the definition of governance committee.
Applying it. Got it. So then the material shifts to shared responsibility, this idea that security isn't just the security team's problem.
Yes, this is huge.
What does that mean in practice? Who's actually responsible for what?
It means security is literally everyone's job, to some extent. Obviously, the security team has specific duties implementing firewalls, running scans, developing policy. They're responsible for a lot of the technical doing.
Okay.
But the course emphasizes that everyone, from the board down to every single employee clicking links or handling data, shares responsibility for maintaining a secure environment.
So clicking carefully is part of governance.
In a way, yes. It's adhering to the security culture that governance helps establish. But then there's accountability.
Different from responsibility.
Very different. Ultimate accountability for the overall security posture, for making sure the risks are managed appropriately. That almost always sits higher up, with executive leadership, maybe even the board.
So the buck stops there.
Usually, yes.
Yeah.
Governance helps define who is responsible for doing things and who is ultimately accountable for the outcomes. Clear roles are essential.
And the material actually breaks down some of those roles, right? It's not just a vague, everyone helps.
It does. It gives some typical examples.
Can you give us a quick rundown? Who generally does what?
Sure. So the board of directors, they typically have oversight. They're not managing day to day, but they need to ensure management is addressing security risks adequately. Due diligence from the top.
Oversight. Okay.
Executive leadership, CEO, C-suite, they're usually the ones accountable. They own the strategy, they provide the resources, they set the tone.
Accountable and resourcing.
Right. Then your security team, CISO, security engineers, analysts, they're responsible for the how, developing policy, implementing controls, monitoring, responding to incidents.
The implementation crew.
You could say that. And then, super important, the business units themselves. Marketing, sales, finance, operations. They have operational responsibility. They need to follow the policies, use the tools correctly, implement security within their own processes.
So they own security within their domain.
Exactly. Understanding how all these roles interact is key to making governance actually function.
And to make this clearer, the material mentions the RCI matrix. I've seen this before, but maybe not everyone has. What is RCI and how does it help here?
RCI. Yeah, it's a really useful, simple tool. Stands for Responsible, Accountable, Consulted, and Informed.
RACI.
It's basically a grid. For any given task or process, like, say, managing a security incident or approving a firewall change, you map out who does what.
So who's responsible?
That's the person or team who actually does the work.
Accountable.
That's the one person who is ultimately answerable for it being done correctly. The buck stops with them. There's usually only one A.
Only one. Accountable. Makes sense. Consulted.
Those are the people whose input is needed before the work gets done. Subject matter experts, maybe legal.
Get their advice.
Right. And informed. Those are the people who just need to be kept in the loop. They don't need to approve or do anything. Just be aware of what's happening.
Okay, I see.
So applying a RACI matrix to key security functions, it massively clarifies things. Everyone knows exactly what's expected of them. And like the course says, you might have several people responsible, but usually only one accountable, often someone senior.
That really clears up the responsibility versus accountability distinction.
It helps a lot, yeah.
So, okay, I've got roles defined, maybe using RACI. How do we know if any of this is actually, working? How do we measure if our governance is effective?
Great question. Because if you can't measure it, how do you manage it or improve it?
Exactly.
The course talks about metrics. And the key here is measuring alignment with, guess what?
Business objectives.
You got it. Are our security efforts actually helping the business achieve its goals? Are we reducing risk in the areas that matter most to the business?
So not just counting vulnerabilities patched.
Well, that might be part of it, but it's bigger picture. We also need metrics showing due care and due diligence.
Due care and due diligence. Remind.
Due care is basically acting responsibly, like a reasonable person would under the circumstances. Due diligence is the proactive investigation and research to make sure you are acting responsibly. So metrics might show you're doing regular risk assessments, providing training, responding to incidents promptly.
Okay, so proof you're being careful and proactive.
Exactly. So tracking things like incident response times, training completion rates, policy compliance percentages, maybe audit findings. These all feed into measuring governance effectiveness.
And then reporting that up.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Reporting these metrics to leadership, to the governance committees, highlighting trends, identifying gaps. That's essential for that continuous improvement loop.
The material then gives some really practical advice, like a set of questions to ask yourself when you're looking at a governance situation.
Yeah, like a quick sanity check.
What are those key questions?
The really good ones. First, does this approach, whatever it is, actually support the stated business goals? That alignment question again.
Number one.
Second, are roles and responsibilities crystal clear? Does everyone know who does what? That RCI idea.
Clarity of roles. Got it.
Third, does it use relevant and appropriate security frameworks? Are we leveraging things like NIST or ISO where it makes sense?
Using the right tools.
Yep. And fourth, does it demonstrate a commitment to due care and due diligence? Are we showing we're taking security seriously and acting responsibly?
Due care, due diligence, check.
If you can answer yes to those, you're probably on the right track with your governance decision. They're great guiding questions.
Let's quickly loop back to those frameworks. We listed a bunch: ISO, NIST, COBIT, SABSA, PCI DSS, FedRAMP. Can we just highlight the unique angle or strength of each one again briefly?
Sure thing. So ISO 27001, think Comprehensive International Standard for an Information Security Management System, or ISMS. Very process-oriented.
Got it. NIST.
NIST, especially the cybersecurity framework. Very strong on risk management, widely adopted in the U.S. Practical steps: identify, protect, detect, respond, recover.
Risk lifecycle? COBIT.
COBIT focuses squarely on IT governance. Aligning IT with business goals, managing IT resources effectively. More about the governance of IT itself.
Okay. CISSP. That one's maybe less common.
Yeah, CISSP Sherwood Applied Business Security Architecture. It's an enterprise security architecture framework. Really integrates security into the business architecture from the ground up. Very holistic, can be complex.
Architecture focused. PCI DSS.
PCI DSS, all about protecting credit card data. Very prescriptive, very specific controls. If you touch card data, you do this.
Card data protection and FedRAMP.
FedRAMP, U.S. federal government standard for cloud security.
Yeah.
If you're a cloud service provider wanting federal clients, you need this authorization. Standardized security assessment.
Cloud for government. Okay, that clarifies the niches.
Yeah. Each has its place, its specific value, depending on what you need to achieve.
Now, something that keeps coming up in the material and in our chat is communication. Why is that so vital for governance? Seems obvious, maybe, but...
It seems obvious, but it's often where things fall down. You can have the best framework, the clearest policies on paper, but if people don't understand them or why they matter or what their role is, it's useless.
Right.
So, the course stresses clear communication, translating technical security stuff into plain English that business leaders and regular employees understand.
Bridging the gap.
Exactly. Communicating requirements clearly, making sure departments are aligned, reporting governance status upwards effectively. It's all about ensuring everyone is on the same page and understands the why behind the what.
Let's dig into the structure itself a bit more. We've mentioned governance committees, policies, frameworks, standards.
Yeah.
How do they all fit together? Is there a hierarchy?
Yeah, you can think of it kind of like a pyramid or a cascade.
Okay.
At the very top, you have your overarching governance approach, often guided by a chosen framework like NIST or ISO. That sets the high-level principles.
The big picture.
Right. Then flowing down from that, you develop organizational policies. These are the high-level mandatory rules. We will protect customer data. We will manage access controls.
The must-dos.
Exactly. Below policies, you have standards. Standards provide more specific, compulsory details on how to implement the policies. Passwords must meet this complexity requirement. Firewalls must be configured according to this baseline.
The specific rules.
Yep. And then you might have procedures, which are the step-by-step instructions for carrying out tasks according to the standards, and guidelines, which are recommendations or best practices.
Policy, standard, procedure, guideline.
That's a common flow. And overseeing all this, often that's where your governance committees come in. They ensure the policies and standards get developed, approved, implemented, and stay aligned with the framework and business needs.
The oversight engine.
Kinda, yeah. And the course notes that understanding how to tailor this structure, which framework fits best, is a core part of applying governance principles.
And it sounds like none of this really works without the folks at the top being on board. Leadership engagement seems critical.
Oh, absolutely non-negotiable. You can't do effective security governance bottom-up alone.
Why is their buy-in so essential?
Well, for several reasons. One, resources. Good security costs money and requires people's time. Leadership needs to approve budgets and prioritize the effort.
Makes sense.
Two, culture. Leaders set the tone. If they visibly champion security, treat it as important, everyone else is more likely to as well. It becomes part of the company DNA.
Tone from the top.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Governance committees often include senior leaders to give them authority and visibility. And honestly, getting that buy-in often means security leaders need to be good at translating security needs into business value.
Back to business alignment again.
Always. Showing how good governance reduces risk, protects reputation, enables business, builds customer trust. That's how you get executives engaged and supportive.
The source also mentioned that these frameworks, ISO, NIST, etc., they can work together, right? It's not always picking just one.
That's a really important point. It's often not an either a situation.
No.
Yeah, many organizations use a hybrid approach. They might use, say, NIST cybersecurity framework as their main overarching structure for risk management. But then they also need to comply fully with PCI DSS because they handle payments. And maybe they adopt specific controls from an ISO standard for, say, business continuity.
So layering them.
Exactly. Or using different ones for different parts of the business. The key is understanding how they complement each other and choosing the right mix to address your specific set of risks, requirements, and regulations.
Okay.
You adapt them to fit your context.
Okay, that makes sense. It's flexible.
It has to be.
We keep circling back to this core idea, and the material really hammers it home. Aligning security with the business strategy. Why is this stressed so much?
Because historically, that's often where security went wrong. It operated in its own technical bubble, disconnected from the business's real priorities.
Right, the department of no problem.
Precisely. True security governance means security is fundamentally seen and acts as a business enabler.
How does that look in practice?
It means things like ensuring security investments directly support key business initiatives. It means security leaders can talk about risk and value in terms that the board understands. It means building security into processes like product development right from the start, not bolting it on at the end.
Security by design.
That's part of it, yeah. And ultimately, it's about demonstrating how security positively contributes to the business's bottom line, its reputation, its resilience. When security is aligned, it's not just a cost center, it's a strategic advantage.
That's a powerful way to frame it. Okay, nearly wrapping up. The material touches on two final, really crucial points. Documentation and continuous improvement. These aren't set it and forget, it's activities.
So definitely not. Think about documentation first. Writing down your policies, your standards, your procedures, who's responsible for what. Back to RACI.
Yeah.
That's not just bureaucracy. It's fundamental evidence of due care and due diligence. It shows you've thought things through, established rules, assigned responsibilities.
Proof you're organized.
And proof you're trying to do the right thing. It's essential for audits, for regulatory compliance, for training new people, for consistency. Good documentation is a sign of a mature governance program.
Okay, so document everything important. And continuous improvement.
Security governance isn't static. The threats change constantly, right?
Every day.
The business changes, new products, new markets, acquisitions, regulations change. So your governance framework has to evolve too.
It needs to keep up.
Exactly. That means regularly reviewing your policies, assessing the effectiveness of your controls, those metrics we talked about, looking for gaps, adapting to new threats or business priorities.
Yeah.
It's a cycle.
Assess, adapt, improve, repeat.
That's the essence of it. The course even suggests, exam questions might ask about the logical next step in refining governance. It's always about moving forward.
Okay, so let's try and recap this deep dive. We've drawn heavily from the not very boring CISSP course, Episode 4, Topic 1.3. And we've really unpacked security governance. We hit on understanding the roles and responsibilities, who does what, who's accountable.
Using tools like ROCI to clarify that.
Yeah. We looked at the key frameworks, ISO, NIST, COBIT, PCI, FedRAMP. Not just what they are, but when and how to apply them.
Their purpose and context.
Crucially, we kept coming back to that alignment with business objectives. Security as an enabler, not a blocker.
The golden thread, absolutely.
And we covered the importance of demonstrating due care, due diligence, often through good documentation and metrics.
And that constant need for review and continuous improvement. It's never done.
Exactly. It's about building and maintaining a practical structure that lets the organization manage security risks effectively and ultimately support its mission.
Couldn't have said it better myself. That's the core of it.
So, final thought for everyone listening today. Take these ideas, governance, roles, alignment, frameworks, and think about them beyond just formal cybersecurity.
Interesting angle.
Where else in your work, or even your personal life, could applying some structure, clarifying responsibilities, or aligning actions with goals prevent problems? Maybe think about a time when a lack of clear governance, even informal governance, led to some kind of issue. It's a surprisingly universal concept.
Please subscribe.